What happens when a prince walks onto daytime television thinking the crown still protects him, only to discover that Joy Behar doesn't bow to anyone? In just 43 seconds, one comment from Meghan Markle would ignite a firestorm that ended with royalty being escorted off set in the most dramatic exit in talk show history. Before we get into this jaw-dropping moment, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because we're pulling back the curtain on royalty's dark side. We're exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think about this outrageous behavior. Now, let's dive in. The View's studio lights were blazing hot that morning. The audience was packed, excited, buzzing with anticipation. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were scheduled guests, and everyone expected a friendly chat about their latest charitable endeavors. Joy Behar sat at the table, looking sharp as always, ready to have a conversation. Sunny Hostin was beside her, along with the rest of the panel. The energy in the room felt good, positive, normal. That lasted about 5 minutes. Harry walked out first, waving to the crowd with that familiar smile. Meghan followed, her hand delicately placed in his, wearing an outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. The applause was thunderous. The host stood up to greet them, handshakes all around, smiles for the cameras. Everything looked picture perfect. They sat down. Joy started with something light. "Welcome to The View. We're so happy to have you both here. How are you adjusting to life in California?" Harry answered first. His voice was calm, polite, exactly what you'd expect. "Thank you for having us. It's been wonderful, really. The weather is fantastic, and we've been able to focus on the work that matters most to us." Meghan jumped in before Joy could ask another question. "Yes, and honestly, it's been so refreshing to be somewhere where people actually respect our privacy and don't hound us every single second of the day." The audience clapped. Joy nodded, keeping things moving. "That's great to hear. Now, you've both been very vocal about mental health awareness. Can you tell us more about your new initiative?" Harry leaned forward, eager to talk about something meaningful. "Absolutely. We've partnered with several organizations to provide resources for people struggling with anxiety and depression. Mental health is something that affects everyone, regardless of background." "That's wonderful," Sunny chimed in. "What inspired you to focus on this particular cause?" Meghan's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough to notice. "Well, as someone who's been through hell and back with my own mental health struggles, I know firsthand how difficult it is when no one believes you, when your own family dismisses your pain like it's nothing." The room got quieter. Joy's eyebrows raised just a fraction. "That sounds incredibly difficult. How did you cope during those times?" "I didn't have much choice," Meghan said, her voice getting sharper. "I had to be strong because no one else was going to advocate for me. Not the palace, not the staff, nobody." Harry reached over and squeezed her hand. "It was a very challenging period for both of us." Joy kept her composure, steering back to safer ground. "And now you're using that experience to help others. That's commendable. Let's talk about your work with veterans." Before Harry could respond, Meghan spoke again. "You know what's interesting, Joy? People always want to focus on the charity work, the good stuff, but nobody wants to talk about the real issues, the systemic problems, the racism, the institutional cruelty." The panelists exchanged glances. The audience shifted in their seats. Joy maintained her professional smile. "Those are certainly important conversations to have, but I think what our viewers really want to know is how you're making a difference now." Meghan's jaw tensed. "With all due respect, that's part of the problem. Everyone wants to move on without acknowledging what happened, without holding people accountable." "I understand," Joy said carefully, "but we do have limited time today, and I'd love to hear more about the specific programs you're launching." Meghan let out a small laugh, not a happy one, more dismissive. "Limited time." "Right, because talking about real issues isn't as important as keeping things light and fluffy for daytime television." The air in the studio changed. You could feel it, that shift from cordial to tense. Joy's smile stayed in place, but her eyes got harder. "Meghan, we're absolutely willing to discuss serious topics. That's what we do here every day, but we also have a format to follow and other segments planned." "A format?" Meghan repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "How convenient." Harry touched her arm gently. "Darling, maybe we should." She pulled away slightly. "No, Harry, I'm tired of being told to stay quiet. I'm tired of being managed and controlled and told what I can and cannot say." Sunny tried to jump in. Nobody's trying to control you, Megan. We're just having a conversation. Megan turned to her. Are we? Because it feels like every time I try to speak my truth, someone's trying to shut me down or change the subject. Joy set her cards down on the table. Her voice was firm but controlled. Megan, you came on this show as a guest. We invited you here to talk about your work, your projects, the things you're passionate about. If you want to have a different conversation, that's fine, but let's do it respectfully. Respectfully? Megan's voice rose. That's rich coming from someone who makes a living tearing people apart on national television. The audience gasped. You could hear it ripple through the crowd. Joy's co-hosts looked shocked. Harry's face went pale. Joy didn't flinch. Excuse me? You heard me, Megan said, leaning forward. You sit here every day making jokes about people, judging them, criticizing them, and now you want to lecture me about respect? Joy's expression hardened. I've been doing this show for over 2 decades. We have tough conversations here. We hold people accountable, but we also treat our guests with dignity unless they give us a reason not to. Oh, please, Megan scoffed. You're just upset because I'm not playing the game. I'm not giving you the sound bites you want. I'm not performing like a trained SEAL. Harry stood up. Okay, I think we should take a break. Maybe we can. Sit down, Harry, Megan snapped at him. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Harry looked stunned, hurt even, but he sat back down slowly, looking at the floor. Joy's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Don't you dare speak to him like that. Megan whipped around to face her. I beg your pardon? You heard me, Joy said, her voice steady and strong. I don't care who you are or what title you think you have. You don't get to talk to your husband like that on my show, or anyone else for that matter. How dare you tell me how to speak to my own husband? Megan fired back. You have no idea what we've been through. You have no right. I have every right, Joy interrupted. This is my show. These are my colleagues. This is our audience. And you came here as a guest. A guest who, frankly, is being incredibly rude. Megan stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Rude? You want to talk about rude? Let's talk about how the media has treated me for years. Let's talk about the constant attacks, the lies, the racism. We can talk about all of that, Joy said, standing up to meet her eye to eye. But not if you're going to act like everyone here is your enemy. We invited you here in good faith. We wanted to hear your story. But you've done nothing but attack us since you sat down. Because you're all the same, Megan shouted. All of you. You pretend to be sympathetic, but you're just waiting for me to slip up so you can tear me apart. Sonny stood up too. That's not fair, Megan. We've given you a platform here. A platform? Megan laughed bitterly. You've given me nothing. You've just tried to control the narrative like everyone else. Joy's patience was wearing thin. You could see it in her face. Megan, I'm going to ask you nicely one more time. Either sit down and have a civilized conversation, or this interview is over. Fine by me, Megan said, grabbing her purse. I don't need this. I don't need any of you. Harry finally spoke up, his voice quiet but strained. Megan, please, let's just calm down and… She turned on him again. Don't you dare tell me to calm down. I'm so sick of you always trying to keep the peace. Stand up for me for once. Harry looked like he'd been slapped. The hurt on his face was visible to everyone in the studio. The audience was dead silent now. You could have heard a pin drop. Joy stepped forward. That's enough. You need to leave. Megan's eyes went wide. What did you just say to me? I said you need to leave, Joy repeated, her voice like steel. This interview is over. You've been disrespectful to me, to my co-hosts, to your husband, and to everyone in this studio. I'm not going to stand here and watch you berate people who've done nothing wrong. You can't kick me off, Megan said, her voice rising to a near shriek. Do you know who I am? Joy didn't even blink. I know exactly who you are, and right now, you're someone who needs to leave my show. Megan looked around, as if expecting someone to come to her defense. The other host stayed quiet. The audience was frozen. Even Harry looked uncertain, torn between his wife and the mounting disaster unfolding before him. This is outrageous, Megan said, her voice shaking with rage. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment I speak up, the moment I refuse to be silenced, I'm punished. You're not being punished for speaking up, Joy said firmly. You're being asked to leave because of how you're treating people. There's a difference, Megan pointed a finger at Joy. You're going to regret this. When the world hears about how you treated me. The world is watching right now, Joy interrupted. They're seeing exactly what's happening. And I'm comfortable with that. Are you? That stopped Megan cold. Her face flushed red. Her hands were shaking. Harry stood up beside her, trying to put a hand on her shoulder, but she jerked away. "Come on," Harry said quietly. "Let's just go." "No," Megan said. "I'm not leaving until she apologizes." Joy crossed her arms. "I have nothing to apologize for." "You disrespected me," Megan insisted. "You dismissed my pain. You—" "I did no such thing," Joy said. "I tried to have a conversation with you. You're the one who turned this into a confrontation." The stage manager appeared from the side, looking nervous. Security personnel were standing by, just out of camera range. The situation was escalating, and everyone could feel it. Megan saw the security guards. "Oh, you're gonna have me removed? Like I'm some kind of criminal?" "You're not being treated like a criminal," Joy said. "You're being treated like someone who can't behave appropriately in a professional setting." "How dare you?" Megan breathed. "How absolutely dare you?" Harry took her arm. "Please, let's just go. This isn't worth it." She yanked her arm free. "Don't touch me." The audience audibly gasped. Harry stepped back, his face a mixture of embarrassment and pain. Sunny covered her mouth with her hand. The other hosts looked at each other, clearly uncomfortable. Joy's voice softened, just slightly. "Harry, I'm sorry you're in the middle of this. You seem like a genuinely nice person, but your wife needs to leave, and if you're smart, you'll go with her." Megan whirled on Joy. "Don't you dare talk to him. Don't you dare pretend to care about him when you've been nothing but hostile to me." "I haven't been hostile," Joy said, her patience clearly at its end. "I've been professional, but that ends now. Security, please escort these guests out." Two security guards stepped forward, not touching anyone but making their presence known. The message was clear. This was over. Megan's face contorted with rage. "This is discrimination. This is abuse. This is consequences," Joy said simply. "Something you're clearly not used to experiencing." That was the final straw. Megan let out a sound somewhere between a scream and a cry of frustration. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the exit. But before she left, she turned back one more time. "You'll pay for this, Joy Behar. I promise you that." Joy didn't even blink. "I'll take my chances." Megan stormed off the set, her heels clicking angrily against the floor. Harry stood there for a moment, looking at the hosts, at the audience, at the cameras. His face was a mask of humiliation and confusion. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry." Then he turned and followed his wife off the set. The studio was silent for what felt like an eternity. Joy slowly sat back down. She took a deep breath. She looked at her co-hosts. Then she looked directly into the camera. "Well," she said, her voice steady, "that happened." The audience didn't know whether to laugh or stay quiet. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the crowd. Sunny leaned over. "Are you okay?" Joy nodded. "I'm fine." "That was intense." "That's one word for it," another host muttered. Joy straightened her papers. "You know, we've had a lot of interesting guests on this show over the years. We've had heated debates. We've had disagreements. But I've never, in all my time doing this, had to ask someone to leave because they couldn't treat people with basic human decency." The audience applauded, loudly. Standing ovation, loud. Joy held up her hand. "I want to be clear about something. We invited those guests here to have a real conversation. We were prepared to discuss difficult topics, mental health, media treatment, all of it. But what we're not going to do is sit here and be verbally abused by anyone. More applause. And I especially won't tolerate watching someone speak to their spouse the way we all just witnessed," Joy continued. "That's not okay. I don't care who you are. That's not how you treat someone you love." Sunny nodded in agreement. "Absolutely. That was really hard to watch." Joy looked into the camera again. "I hope Harry's okay. I really do. He seems like he's been through a lot." "But, Megan." She paused, choosing her words carefully. Megan needs to take a long look in the mirror and ask herself why she sees enemies everywhere she goes. The audience murmured in agreement. "We're going to take a quick break," Joy said. "When we come back, we'll try to get back on track with our scheduled programming, assuming we have any guests left who are willing to come on after that display." The camera cut to commercial. Behind the scenes, the crew was buzzing. Producers were on their phones. The stage manager was coordinating with security. Everyone was processing what had just happened. Joy leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. "That was something." "You handled it perfectly," Sunny told her. "Seriously. You gave her so many chances." "I tried," Joy said. "I really tried. But at some point, you have to draw a line." One of the producers came over. "We're getting messages already. Social media is exploding. Everyone saw what happened." Joy nodded. I figured, well, we told the truth. We were respectful until we couldn't be anymore. That's all we can do. When the show came back from commercial, Joy addressed the audience one more time. I know everyone's still thinking about what just happened. I am too. But we want to move forward with our show because we have important topics to discuss, and we're not going to let one bad guest derail everything. The audience applauded their support. However, Joy continued, I do want to say one more thing. To anyone watching at home, especially young people, what you just saw is not how adults should handle disagreement. When you're a guest somewhere, whether it's someone's home or their television show, you treat them with respect. You don't attack people who are trying to have a conversation with you. You don't lash out at everyone around you. And you absolutely do not speak to your partner the way we saw today, Sunny added. And if you're in a relationship where you're being spoken to like that, please know that's not love. That's not okay. Joy nodded. Exactly. Love is respect. Love is kindness. Love is not what we witnessed here today. The show continued, but the energy had shifted. The audience was still engaged, still listening, but everyone knew they had just witnessed something unprecedented, something that would be talked about for a long time. Throughout the rest of the episode, Joy maintained her professionalism. She discussed the planned topics. She joked with her co-hosts. She interacted with the audience. But there was an underlying current of tension that never quite dissipated. When the show finally ended, Joy stood up and addressed the studio audience one last time. Thank you all for being here today. I know that wasn't the show anyone expected, but I appreciate you sticking with us. And remember, treat people with kindness, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The audience gave her a standing ovation, a real one, not prompted, not forced. Genuine appreciation for how she had handled an impossible situation. Backstage, the other hosts gathered around Joy. You okay? One asked. Joy smiled. I'm fine. Really. It wasn't fun, but it was necessary. You were amazing, Sunny said. Seriously, the way you stood your ground but never stooped to her level. That was masterclass. Joy shrugged. I've been doing this a long time. You learn when to push back and when to just end things. Today required ending things. The producer came over again, tablet in hand. Joy, you need to see this. The video is everywhere. Millions of views already. And the comments. People are overwhelmingly on your side. Joy glanced at the tablet, seeing countless messages of support. That's nice, but that's not why I did it. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Still, the producer said, people are calling you a hero. They're saying you stood up to entitled behavior and showed what real dignity looks like. Joy waved it off. I'm not a hero. I just refuse to be disrespected on my own show. Anyone would have done the same. But not everyone would have handled it the way Joy did. With firmness, but without cruelty. With boundaries, but without revenge. She could have torn Megan apart verbally. She could have made cruel jokes or cutting remarks. But she didn't. She simply held the line and refused to accept unacceptable behavior. That's what made the moment so powerful. Joy didn't need to destroy anyone. She just needed to maintain standards. And in doing so, she showed the entire world that respect goes both ways. That celebrity doesn't exempt anyone from basic human decency. That even royalty has to follow the same rules as everyone else when they're a guest in someone else's space. The footage would be analyzed for days. People would debate what happened. Some would defend Meghan, most would not. But regardless of personal opinions, one thing was undeniable. Joy Behar had faced down entitled behavior and refused to back down. She had protected her show, her co-hosts, and even Harry from further abuse. And she had done it all while maintaining her own dignity. The studio gradually emptied out. The crew packed up equipment, the lights dimmed. But the impact of what happened would last much longer than the episode itself. Joy gathered her things and headed for her dressing room. She passed by a mirror and paused, looking at her reflection. She looked tired. It had been an exhausting day, but she also looked satisfied. She had done the right thing, even when it was hard, even when it meant kicking royalty off her show. And that, more than anything else, was what mattered. As she left the studio that day, Joy knew this moment would be remembered, not because of who was involved, but because of what it represented. A line in the sand, a refusal to accept bad behavior from anyone, regardless of their status. A reminder that respect and decency matter more than fame or titles or perceived victimhood. The View had seen many dramatic moments over the years, but this one would stand out, not for its spectacle, though there was certainly that, but for its principle. For the simple truth that Joy Behar refused to compromise. And that's exactly why people respected her.